What do a lot of parents do that screws up their kid? Making it really hard to tell them things. My mom always freaks out when I tell her anything, and then as a defense mechanism she makes fun of whatever it is that I've told her. I switched my major to criminal justice and she freaked out saying, well, good thing you don't want to be a cop. You were always so sensitive. You'd look pretty dumb crying in the uniform when someone says something mean to you. Thanks, mom. Refuse to believe their child could do something wrong. I know a few frick-ups and their parents are either totally apathetic towards them or, no matter what the situation, blame other children or claim it's some sort of conspiracy against their child. Instill their own insecurities and fears into their children. Refuse to apologize or admit when they're wrong to their kids or to other people in front of their kids. Your children will remember all the times you hurt their feelings and then tried to pretend like it never happened. They will remember the cashier you yelled at for a mistake that you made but wouldn't say sorry for. They'll either turn into an butthole or they'll overcompensate and feel responsible for everything that goes wrong because you set a horrible example. I get this vibe from my mother a lot. She'll be and complain about Clark's cashiers all day when they won't let her do something because it's against their policy. She's the kind of person that blames the frontlines people for stuff the backroom people decided. I always feel the need to apologize to those people when it happens. It's embarrassing. My mom was overly paranoid of everything, and my dad refused to acknowledge when he was wrong. Take your pick. Look me in the eyes and tell me you're not lying. Fam, the dishes are in the dishwasher, you can go check for yourself. Using your kids as an emotional dumping ground. My mom has always told me everything bad in her life. She always tells me about her issues with my dad. It makes me super uncomfortable, so I keep telling her to get professional help, which she does for a while but doesn't stick to it. Physically punishing and screaming at your kid for fessing up to an honest mistake. I accidentally broke a window when I was 5 and told the truth about it. I was promptly spanked pretty vigorously and sent to my room and told to stay in there. What did I take away from that? Live, it prevents you from getting into any sort of trouble. I was a pretty dishonest kid for years after that. Not listening to what the kid is really saying. And if they complain about something in school, telling them, well, everyone is having a hard time just like you. For all you know, their hard time might be something a lot more serious that you are just writing off. Comparing them to other kids, especially siblings. No kid likes to hear, why can't you be more like so and so? It's just so damaging. Your child is not so and so. They will never be so and so. Just help them along with being who they are. My parents constantly compared me to other kids when I was growing up. Some of the kids they compared me to were bullies of mine. I was never good enough for them. Fast forward to now, I'm 31, and whenever I speak with them about problems in life, they're always asking me why I compare myself negatively to others. I literally just made the connection, and I want to cry. Holy crap. Never standing up for them. Parents shouldn't be fixing their kids every freak up, but they should be there for their kid when they get bullied. It's hard for kids to trust their parents if they can't be certain they have their back. Have them so you have someone to take care of you when you're old, and constantly remind them of this. My mother still thinks we're going to take care of her despite her not taking care of us when we were kids. Lol. Number. The cheapest nursing home we can find will have to do. Belittling them and never acknowledging their age. Some parents will still treat you like you're 3 years old even if you are 40. I'm in my early 30s and my parents do this. It gets old fast when the grown-ups are talking, and when you try to add to the conversation, it's ignored. Being super passive-aggressive about crap. Every time I did something wrong, mom would never bring it up, she would just throw little jabs regarding whatever I did wrong. I don't tell her things anymore, lol. Train their kids to be doormats. Drop what you're doing and do whatever I or any adult you know tells you to is a reasonable rule for a 5-year-old. But tons of parents continue to enforce that upon teenagers because it's more convenient to them for their teenagers to be doormats. And then, big shock, they grow up to be adult doormats, unable to stand up for themselves or even assert their own desires. Crap, this might be why I'm a bit of a doormat. Refusing to admit when they're wrong. It's actually very hard to admit you're wrong and not trying to make excuses, but it can have a negative impact on kids. Kids then grow up feeling like they constantly have to defend themselves and or feeling like they actually shouldn't. Ignoring your kids can lead to emotional neglect. That may not seem like a big deal, but it kinda screwed me up. Giving a kid freedom as a teenager is key. However, giving a kid so much freedom that you essentially check out from any sort of parental role is bad parenting that ultimately leads to the kid trying to make life decisions without any real guidance and somewhat fricks up their life. Yes, it's all about balance. Enough rules routine that the kids grow up feeling safe, building a good work ethic, but enough flexibility and freedom that kids learn how to go with the flow of things when plans suddenly change, and learn how to deal with mistakes, failures and less than ideal outcomes. Reading this post I realized where my parents freaked up. No matter what achievements one makes, the parent relates it to a failure. Nice job making Eagle Scout. If only your grades were better. Good work mowing the lawn. But you couldn't do the dishes? I can't believe you lasted this long living on your own driving a forklift. Frick you, mom. Last I checked I'm employed, not in debt, and going back to school while completely supporting myself. I'm doing pretty goddamned well for someone my age. So my parents too, like for real just congratulate me for the 5 frickin' tests I did well on, but no, they keep ranting on about that one test I had mediocre points for. Trying to live vicariously through your kids' athletic activities. Yes, pushing kids into activities in spite of what they want, or allowing them to sign up for so many things that their schoolwork suffers. Give low effort answers to questions. If you don't know, that's fine. Teach the kid how to find out. Give in when kid is being demanding or throwing a tantrum. And I don't mean giving in once in a while to keep the peace in a public place. I mean every time. I found $1 outside once when I was about 9. I was with my 4-5-year-old neighbor who got really jealous and demanded I give it to her. I refused. Frick you, I found $1 and I'm a 9-year-old, that's a big deal. And she ran home to her mom upset and about to cry. Her mom tried to explain that I found it, so it was mine only one time before she solved the issue by grabbing $1 from her purse and tossing it into the bushes while her daughter's back was turned. Hey look, there's another one. Now you found one too. That kid was a nightmare with a very warped definition of fairness. Never negotiate with terrorists tantrum throwing. If they get away with it once, they will always get away with it. Not letting the kid express themselves. My parents tried really hard with me, but they really screwed me up with their helicopter parenting. I wasn't allowed to wear t-shirts with cartoon characters, for example, because they were childish. I was 13. Or floral print, because it's for old people. As a result, I was dressed like I was 30 years old for most of my life. Every birthday party I went to, I was the best dressed, and not in a "oh she looks precious" way, but more of a "I thought this was a kid's party. Why is she dressed formally" kind of way. As an adult, I don't know what's socially appropriate to wear most places, and my fashion sense is really interesting. Overprotectiveness. Of course there are always some things that need to be tightly watched around kids, but when you shield your child from every possible inconvenience, they'll end up either spoiled or overly dependent. Besides the obvious abusive answers, invading the kid's privacy, my mom, along with many other parents, would read my texts sometimes and confront me about them. I never felt comfortable locking my door. It was always associated with being angry or spiteful. I didn't even realize knocking was normal. It kind of messed up my idea of privacy in relationships. Didn't really think snooping was that wrong for a while. I wasn't allowed to lock my door because, if something happens to you, you will die because I can't get in there. Eventually we at least got to knocking, only after getting walked in on jerking off about 15 times in 1 week. Not let them fail. Making fun of your son whenever he happens to have a crush on someone. This is one of the many ways you can turn an already shy kid into a miserable human being with no self-confidence. I should know. I was one. Thanks dad and assorted buttholes from elementary middle school. I've only found the courage to start dating at the ripe old age of 26. And I didn't even talk much to women before I was 19. Relentlessly tease them for liking a boy or girl. Awkward, socially inept, and confident people are built with this crap. Pass on the bulk of the parenting of younger siblings onto the older ones. You signed up for this crap and it is incredibly gross to expect your child to take on an unpaid part to full-time job because you didn't realize it would be a lot of work. With any luck, your child will only resent you and not their siblings. Not appreciating their accomplishments. Some parents don't bother telling their 5-year-olds how good their drawings are. A kid's drawing might not be the most beautiful in the world, but it should be appreciated because these kids put a lot of effort in it. Telling them how expensive it is to raise a child. Seriously, a kid should not have to worry about family finances or feeling like a burden. I overheard my family talking about money and it stressed me out more than anything else when I was younger. Not letting your child experience boredom. It isn't your job to keep your children entertained. Provide them a safe place to explore and play and sit on your hands and watch. Since this is Reddit, I should add that this doesn't mean you should go to an extreme. Simplicity Parenting is a great book that explains this much better than I can. It has completely changed how my wife and I interact with our daughter while she's playing. Basically, we provide some toys and a safe area and keep an eye on her, only getting involved if she invites us or if she does something not safe, and even then we do our best to stretch our comfort zone. Using food to combat boredom or a bad mood. It might calm down or distract an agitated kid to give him Cheerios, but you're basically teaching boredom eating. Giving ice cream to a kid to get them to stop crying will encourage that person to reach for food when they're in a bad mood as an adult, like I do. Crapping on their kids' dreams. Frick doing what you love, son. Be a seafarer. According to several studies, helicopter parenting is just as bad as complete lack of attention to a child. Parents need to balance their crap. Avoid talking to them about making love. Seriously, parents, do you really want your kids' 6th grade friends telling them what making love is? Do you really expect that, by avoiding the topic, your kids will never have physical relationships, or, if they do, they'll magically know about appropriate behaviors and birth control and protection from disease? That goes for pee too. You need to tell your kids about pee when they get to a certain age. The right age is up for debate. Your kids will see pee, and you need to be the one to tell them what it is and that it's for entertainment, and most of it isn't how two people in love get physically intimate. Denying the existence of mental illness and never allowing their child to get appropriate treatment. Forcing your kids to eat when they are not hungry is really unhealthy. I know so many people, myself included, who had parents or grandparents who insisted they clean their plate. Growing up, I didn't really eat when I was hungry. I ate at meal times, and I ate everything on my plate. That's just how I was brought up. My parents meant well, I know. They fed me pretty healthy foods, so it's not like I was being force-fed Big Macs. They didn't want me to waste food and they wanted to make sure I was getting enough nutrition. So I don't fault their intentions. But it's only now, when I'm almost 30, that I'm actually figuring out how to decide whether or not I'm actually hungry. I ate by the clock for so long that I never really learned how to pay attention to my own body and follow its cues for deciding when to eat and how much. I'm working on that now, but it's surprisingly difficult to figure that stuff out when you're not used to it. Lots of people end up with lifelong weight issues because they had parents or family members who pushed them to ignore what their body was telling them and just keep eating past the point of satiation. It's really hard to unlearn that crap. Parents should, as much as possible, let their kids decide when to eat and how much they want to eat. I think it's okay to impose some restrictions, like telling your kid, if you don't want to eat any more of your lunch, that's okay, but you won't be getting anything else until dinner time. But you have to let kids stop eating when they decide they aren't hungry anymore. Telling them that they are smart, as opposed to praising their hard work. I'm not advocating calling a kid stupid. Emphasizing intelligence, interpreted as an innate trait, sets the kid up for failure when they come to a situation that's too hard. That is, I'm smart, but not smart enough for this. Instead, recognize the effort and the thought process they put into figuring things out or doing schoolwork, so they're ready to take on increasing challenges. Give them what they want when they start crying. Parents basing all their opinions on their own life experiences in life rather than considering that the world has changed since being their kids' age. I believe this happens in the US more than other countries, based solely on personal experience. They tease their kids for having crushes and liking the opposite gender, and or also expect kids to go through a cooties phase, even though men do not. At least I did not. Then kids grow up shy and weird around the opposite gender, like they should be embarrassed to like someone romantically. Then the adults are all, "Why aren't you married? What's wrong with you?" Putting your kids on a pedestal. I feel like that isn't too healthy. Calling your kid a genius will result in underachievers with inflated egos. She must be really stupid for breaking up with you. This contributed to holding a grudge for a few months, resenting and blaming my ex. Not respecting boundaries, or letting their children have some amount of privacy independence. It didn't teach me to follow the rules, I just taught me to lie better. Scream at each other. Badmouth one another to the children. Dishing out sarcasm and smartest answers but getting mad at your kid when they start dishing it back at you. The day my son, 5, told me to stick that in your lunchbox and eat it is a day I will never forget. Give them everything they want. Don't teach them basic life skills like clean up after yourself. Like this video and this good bee will play you a nice song. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.